Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call to order the March meeting of the Santa Cruz County Board of Education, regular meeting with a roll call, please.
Student trustee Hopkins. Student trustee Marcus.
Here.
Trustee Acosta. Vice President Estrada.
Here.
Trustee Larson.
Here.
Trustee Roth. She's here. Trustee Van Allen.
Here.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
President Sanchez.
Here. Do we get any requests for remote attendance approval?
We have not, President Sanchez.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask that we please rise to pledge allegiance, and I'm going to ask our superintendent to lead us in that pledge.
If you're able to rise, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I do want to make a comment and let the public, let the trustees know as well that I'll be stepping out a little bit early today, around 6:15 for a family emergency. But 6:15, I'll time it around there based on where we are on the agenda. Next, we have approval of the agenda. This is the time for anybody in the public that would like to address the board on any items that are not on the agenda.
Approval of the agenda. I'll move approval.
I would like to make an amendment before we do that. We did receive a request to move up the resolution item 9.7 up on the agenda and to specifically do it at 6:30.
That's fine.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. First, perfect. Second from Estrada. First from Van Allen. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Okay. Now we have public comments. Anybody in the public that would like to address the board on any matters that are not on the agenda, this is your opportunity. We ask that you please step forward, provide your name, and keep your comments to a limit of 3 minutes.
President Sanchez, we have public comment from Shalak. Turn on your.
Hi, I'll try to be quick. You got a long meeting tonight. Thank you for your service. It's great to see you, like so many of you, volunteering for the STEM fair and being there all day long or mock trial. Because of your involvement, I'd like to bring up some things that aren't as highly visible, and that's the bathroom as a resource. At our alternative ed sites, all the bathrooms not only have menstruation products for the students, they also have, condoms and lube. Once you're over the age of 12 in the state of California, you have access to healthcare. We also have in all the bathrooms, both in English and Spanish, trafficking awareness information and cards. So not only how to look out for trafficking, but where you can go to get support and help. Our bathrooms, for the most part, are a great place to display things because you're sort of got a audience that's going to stay in there for a second, and that gives them the opportunity to read and grab resources that necessarily they might not want other people to know that they're grabbing those resources. So both in English and Spanish and in many different ways. Thank you guys so much for your service.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi. Can I go now? Okay. Hi, I'm Dewey Garcia. I go to Harbor High School, and I just recently found out that one of the art teachers at my school is being involuntarily transferred, and I'm here to discuss that. The students of Harbor High are really troubled with this because, Ms. Davidovich is the teacher. She's very important to all of us, and she's really made a big change to our school and supports many of us through art, but also emotionally, educationally, She's built up the golf program from basically nothing for the girls. And yeah, so now there's an actual team. Well, I understand that you need to balance the budget. It's also crucial to keep a thriving art department and program with teachers who are loved and involved. Art is a subject in school that kids really need because, you know, high school isn't really easy for anybody. And art's a, you know, safe place where we can express ourselves and get a break from day-to-day troubles in school and out of school. We want her as a full-time teacher at Harbor. She has a true gift with high schoolers, teenagers, and we really need that at our school. Yeah, she's very committed and she's a positive influence and makes a big change to our school, and it wouldn't be the same without her. And here's a petition that a bunch of kids at my school signed, just to show our support for her and how much we care about her staying at our school next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
If, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you haven't done so already, please share your contact with us so that we can keep you.
President Sanchez,
informed.
may we make
Sure.
one brief comment, which is to clarify to the public that Harbor High School is under the governance of Santa Cruz City Schools. And assuming this is the only copy of the petition that you may want to consider delivering that petition to the Santa Cruz City Schools Governing Board, since we're the County Office of Education. However, that is of course up to you.
We'd be happy to make copies of the petition so that you can keep the original. So we could do that right now. Thank you so much.
Any other comments from the public? Any comments online?
Yes.
Yes, seeing one from Manny. One moment while I make Manny.
Can you hold?
Could you hold on 1 second, Ms. Nichols? Thank you.
Hello?
Manny, can you unmute?
Yep.
Give me one moment while I start the timer.
The
Hello?
yeah,
Yeah,
hold on now. Sorry.
We're gonna start the timer.
Oh,
for the
okay,
3
sounds good.
minutes, and then I'll inform you if you get close to it.
We need
Sounds
to,
good. I will not take the whole 3 minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Manny.
All right. Hello, everybody. So mine were actually a series of questions. And one statement. So the County Board of Supervisors for the County of Santa Cruz received a letter from the federal administration, from the Trump administration, basically saying that they were in non-compliance with their DEI executive orders. And I'm pretty sure, as you guys saw, that half of the workforce for the Department of Education was laid off and fired. And then today, there was an executive order signed to begin the dismantling of the Department of Education. So my question to you guys is, how does Santa Cruz County Education plan on preparing for inevitable budget cuts without hurting the students and without hurting the staff and by actually protecting what you guys are supposed to do, which is to serve the students and teach them and help them fight back against what's going on and what's trying to keep them from learning.
Thank you for your comments, Manny. Unfortunately, we can't respond in public comment, but we do have staff that is paying attention, is keeping up with what's going on, and I believe Ferris wants to share a little bit more.
Microphone.
I will be providing an update on the current impacts of the federal administration and steps that we're taking during my superintendent's report.
Okay. So yeah, towards the end of the meeting. Thank you. Any other public comments? Sandra? Welcome.
Now to thank you all for being so kind to me as to send me a card in the mail with comments about my service. I've been a trustee for 24 years. That's a long time, especially since I moved halfway through it. So I was 12 years on the Pajaro board, and I'm completing 12 years here also. I enjoy being a trustee because there are so many very fine trustee, hardworking people, and I like to work with you all. Ferris, you are a wonderful superintendent, as was Michael Watkins. It's like, how can you do all this stuff? How can you get along with the health department officials and make strategy for how to deal with COVID and being inoculated and etc. We all want to be healthy. But Ferris said, thank you for your years of service and your commitment to our students. Your leadership has been exemplary and impactful with deep appreciation, Ferris, and I appreciate the work that you do. I couldn't have done it, Ferris, the work that you do. I couldn't have done that. You're a very smart person. Okay, where is Nick? Nick has been so helpful in helping our committee. Our committee is the, what's the name of our committee, Bruce?
Community and Legislative Outreach.
Yeah. So you did incredible service to make and find resolutions that we could approve of or change, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Nick. Pardon?
With Berenice as well.
Berenice, we couldn't do it without Berenice. Oh, she has something here. Berenice says, thank you for your decades of service, wishing you the best. Thank you, Bruce, for thanking me in the card. You did a lot of our work, a lot of the committee work. Thank you. And Troy? No, well, Troy did it. Troy does a good job of welcoming people to the higher level positions. Okay, who else? Raul, where is you? Is that your last name or your first name? Okay, the unknown writer. It was so lovely getting to know you. Enjoy your time. Marcia, wishing you all the best and thank you for your service. When I got this, I couldn't believe that so many people said such nice things about me. Yeah, I got my 24 years in.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify that we did good work. Sandra, I think your many years of service is a big part of that as well. So thank you. Any other public comments? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other public comments? If none, let's move on to consent agenda. Questions, comments from the board? None? We have a motion from Van Allen. Second from Larson. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Correspondence. Did we receive any correspondence?
The only correspondence that you've received since the agenda packet was created was from ACCBE, and I have emailed those all to you. And then also, just as an FYI, they will be here in April.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Next on our agenda is that student trustee reports. Student trustee Hopkins could not make it today. She has approved absence, but we have here student trustee Marcus that will share his report along with student trustee Hopkins as well.
I have a brief report and then here's a report that I'll read out loud. But for my report, so is this better? Yeah. So I went to the STEAM Expo. I was checking it out, doing some volunteering, and it seems like a pretty cool event. There's just like so much going on there, so many different things. Like X Academy does stuff. There's like a Julie Robinson Math Festival, science fair, music. It's really a cool event that I think showcases all the good work the county does. Sort of a culmination of all of that. And also just coming from students, I know different students that participate in the science fair. I think we're hearing more about that in this meeting, the people that did well. And then also people that they were working with X Academy, people volunteering for the math festival. It seems like a pretty popular event among students too. So on behalf of students, I kind of wanted to say like good job to the county for putting that together. And that's it for my report, I think. So I can.
Thank you.
The report is our Monterey Bay Alternative Education Athletic League just wrapped up the basketball season and had a great year. Our itinerant physical education teacher, Bradley King, wrote an article regarding our league and the positive impacts. He highlights how Santa Cruz County integrates PE and competitive athletics into alternative education through the Monterey Bay Alternative Schools Athletic League, and explains how the program improves focus, engagement, and personal growth. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really encouraging. Makes me happy to see you guys involved in your communities. Thanks for sharing and for doing what you do. Moving along now, we have reports, and we'll start with 8.1, Sunshine of the Santa Cruz County Education Association, Chapter 0236, and their proposed changes. We have Elizabeth here to present.
Yes, I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Burnham Grab, who is the president of our chapter here of our Teachers Union. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the hard work that you do as one of our educators and as a leader of our Teachers Union. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Burnham Grau. I am the current acting president of the Santa Cruz County Office of Education Certificated Unit. I want to start just by saying thank you, Superintendent Sabah and President Sanchez, and to all of the board members present today. Thank you for allowing me to present via Zoom. I deeply appreciate your dedication to equity and access and making it accessible to attend these meetings. It's an honor to work for and with all of you. The SCCEA Chapter 236 chooses at this time to exercise its rights as expressed by law to sunshine the following contract articles for a revised certificated employee successor agreement for July 1, 2025 through July 30th, 2026 cycle, Article 6 compensation, and Appendix 1 or I certificated salary schedule. And that is it for me today. I appreciate you making it so I could be here.
Thank you. Next, we have another sunshine with the Santa Cruz County Education Association, Chapter 0236, with Leanne Reyes as the presenter.
Thank you, President Sanchez. This is to inform the Board of Education that the Santa Cruz County Office of Education intends to open negotiations with the Santa Cruz County Education Association, California Teachers Association / National Education Association regarding the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 25-26. The RADA Act requires parties negotiating a collective bargaining agreement to give public notice of their proposals, which is what we are both doing at this time. By sunshining proposals in this fashion, we are announcing our intent to negotiate. Our proposal was attached in your board packet, and my screen just went blank. One moment. The Santa Cruz County Office of Education intends to open the following articles as well. Article 6, compensation. Article 7, hours of employment. And Article 10, leaves.
Thank you. Next, we have Sunshine from the California School Employees Association, Chapter 484, with their proposed changes. And for this item, we have Rory Bruce.
Yes. I was going to do a quick introduction for, I just want to thank the president of CSCA, our local chapter here of our classified bargaining unit, Rory Bruce. As you know, the team of both our certificate and classified staff really are so much of the backbone of the services and the programs that we offer our students, and just grateful for your leadership and for the great work of our classified employees. Welcome, Mr. Bruce.
Ferris, thank you so much. And President Sanchez and all of our board members tonight, thank you so much for allowing me here to present our sunshine for the 2025-2026 contract negotiation reopeners. This is definitely a right of our spring passage, annual spring event. This California School Employees Association and its Santa Cruz County Office of Education, Chapter 484, are submitting its initial proposals in accordance with Section 3547 of the Government Code for the upcoming 2025-2026 reopener negotiations. We respectfully submit the following bargaining proposals. Every year, Articles 11, pay and allowances, and Article 12, health and welfare benefits, are already open for negotiation on an annual basis. Under Article 11, CSCA has an interest in a fair and equitable wage increase for its bargaining unit. CSCA also has an interest in negotiating any impacts of the state minimum wage increases on the CSCA salary schedule. Additionally, under Article 12, health and welfare benefits, CSCA has an interest in a fair and equitable health and welfare benefits plan for its bargaining unit members, and reviewing the share of costs and responsibilities of each of the parties. In addition to that, this year, we're opening 2 additional articles, which we're entitled to do under our contract. We're opening up Article 5, association rights. CSCA has an interest in bargaining for the language surrounding our meeting schedules. We also additionally would like to open up Article 10, holidays, and CSCA has an interest in reviewing and bargaining dates for paid holidays. And with that, if there are any questions from any members from the board this evening that I can answer for you in regards to our contract negotiation openers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all the great work you do.
Thank you. And another sunshine from the Santa Cruz County Employee Association, Chapter 484, with Leanne Reyes.
You. So the Santa Cruz County Office of Education intends to open negotiations with the California School Employees Association, Chapter 484 CSCA, regarding the collective bargaining agreement for the fiscal year 2025-2026. The Santa Cruz County Office of Ed proposal is included in your packet, but briefly, the articles that we are hoping to discuss with our CSCA team, who are all very lovely. I love everyone on your team, Rory. Great people. Article 11, pay and allowances. Article 12, health and welfare. And then we intend to open Article 13, vacation. The proposal for vacation is to negotiate possible revisions to the language related to vacations, and this would be done in order to help incorporate our current practice into the collective bargaining agreement. And then lastly, leaves. The proposal to negotiate possible revisions to language related to leaves would be done in order to also incorporate current law into the collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you. We're at 8.5 now, our dental assisting apprenticeship program presentation. So we have our superintendent, Dr. Sabah, who's going to do an introduction.
Yes, it's my pleasure to welcome Sony Guerra Sanson, who's going to be presenting really such an exciting evolution of our career and adult learning services programs. One that really is taking our dental assistant program to the next level. And so we thought it was really important for you to hear about this program, not only from its design, but also from our students who are participating. And so I'd like to welcome Ms. Sanson and thank her for sharing this information. I'm going to pass on the...
Good afternoon, trustees, Superintendent Sabah. Thank you for having us. I'm Sony Guerra Sanson, Executive Director for Career and Adult Learning Services. I wanted to ask my colleague Stephanie and our student Mia to introduce themselves as well.
My name is Mia Rodriguez. I am one of the dental assistants working at Commercial Way.
Thank you, Mia. And my name is Stephanie Villalopez. I am a project coordinator in Career and Adult Learning Services here at the County Office of Education.
So this evening, I want to start with gratitude for you all, for your support of our student programs, to Ferris for supporting our innovation and all along the way of everything that we do, having your support, to our partners at Dientes, and also to our business partners for all the support that you provide to help us get these programs going. And especially to my colleague and friend Stephanie, who just introduced herself. She works tirelessly to serve our students and the community across the county. Clicker. Oh, thank you. Okay, so just a little bit about our department. It's still fairly new. I think 2022 is when we branded it with this new name. And you see our mission statement there, really around opportunity for advancement in career, in the workforce, gaining technical skills. And we also, as you know, part of our department is the Career Advancement Charter. Both of those programs or schools really are WASC accredited. We're going through that process currently, so you'll be hearing more about that very soon. But specifically our dental assisting program, it's a long-standing program that's been here at the county office for over 2 decades. It's across the street at the 399 Annex, and we provide a pathway into entry-level employment as a dental assistant. It includes classroom instruction and then also the hands-on. And what we did this past year is we launched our apprenticeship, which we're going to tell you a little bit about. And part of launching any new program in CALS or CTE Focus there has to be a demand for that specific position. And dental assistance is absolutely part of an essential healthcare profession. I'm going to let Stephanie speak a little bit about that.
Thank you, Sony. Perfect. Thank you. So the role of dental assistants is often overlooked, but without a doubt, they are an essential part of the dental practices and at the heart of the dental practices. Dental assistants ensure smooth operations, enhancing both patient care and efficiency. They work closely with dentists, hygienists, and other dental staff to provide high-quality care. Oftentimes, they are the first point of contact for patients, welcoming folks to the practice. They assist chairside, follow infection control and sterilization procedures, take dental x-rays, and provide patients with oral health education. The dental assisting career is a profession with stability, advancement opportunities, and the ability to make a meaningful impact on patients' lives. Our dental assisting apprenticeship program is committed to training the next generation of skilled, confident, and certified dental assistants through hands-on learning and mentorship, all under the leadership of Debbie Martinez, who is our program instructor. We are proud for over 2 decades to have offered the traditional program pathway of our dental assisting program. That is a fee-based program for individuals who prefer a part-time career training program, allowing them to balance their work-life responsibilities with education. This past year, as Sony was mentioning, we launched an apprenticeship pathway for individuals in the community. This pathway is a tuition-free program designed to bridge the gap between education, training, and employment to provide a seamless pathway to the dental industry. Upon beginning on-the-job training, students are paid on a progressive wage schedule.
I think that image is hard for you to see. However, it contains some very important data points around what occupations in the healthcare industry are available in the Tri-County area as well as in Santa Cruz County. And as I said, we use data to inform our decisions about what programs we're going to pursue, what programming we're going to offer for our adult students. Our apprenticeship is the first of its kind in the region. When we went to register our standards with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, we are the only dental assisting apprenticeship competency-based program. So we're brand new. Most people, when they think apprenticeships, they think trades. And that has really changed in the last few years. And so, like I said, we looked at interest. We knew we had the students because we've had this longstanding program. We know the demand is there. What's indicated on that chart that I know is hard to see is that there's 191 annual job openings in the Tri-County. So that's Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey. If you add Santa Clara, it doubles. In Santa Cruz, the number is 67 jobs locally every year. So currently we have 18 students going through our program. So to bridge the gap, we are supporting the healthcare community by offering this program. One thing that is really special and different about an apprenticeship is our students are paid. So they attend a 5-week intensive at the beginning of the school year, and then they are on the job working 32 hours a week and being paid. Whereas in our traditional program, those internship or externship hours they're not compensated. And so we think it's important to include that there have been some challenges along the way. We were awarded both a planning grant and implementation grant through the California Apprenticeship Initiative, just over $1 million. That money cannot be used to pay the apprentices. So securing industry partners is crucial, and that has been difficult. Dientes is our primary partner, and we're currently trying to find other dentists who will support this effort. And as I said, the process of registering standards with the state has been, it was difficult. It was a difficult process, and it took a long time, but we did it. A little bit more about an apprenticeship, Steph?
An apprenticeship, as Sony mentioned, they've existed for decades in the building trades and construction industry. We are a part of an amazing effort through the Chancellor's Office to expand apprenticeships in the healthcare industry. An apprenticeship is an earn as you learn structured training program integrating paid on-the-job training with tuition-free classroom instruction. It embeds related and supplemental classroom instruction where apprentices such as Mia engage in instruction provided by us, the Career and Adult Learning Services, and dental assisting. It also embeds paid on-the-job training where apprentices go into clinics and perform what they learned in the classroom, hands-on, but also theoretically on the job. They begin assisting a bit earlier on in their education alongside dentists, hygienists, and while they're doing that, they are getting paid on a progressive wage schedule.
So as I said, our primary partner is Dientes Community Dental Care. It has been awesome to work with them. They are a like-minded organization who really works to serve patients who need the most care across the county. Currently, you can see our clinic placements there. We have apprentices at 4 Dianthus locations, and then we have 1 private office that also is employing a dental assisting apprentice. The benefits for the employer are huge because the employer gets to train the apprentice exactly how they want them trained. So it really is an opportunity for the dentist to work very closely with the apprentice and teach them the way they want them to learn. And so you can see some of the benefits there, including recruitment costs, I would say retention, and also that support that we're able to give both to students and employees in this partnership. Employers, sorry. And then Stephanie.
Since the launch of the apprenticeship program in August, we've had a lot of amazing milestones. One of them being getting officially registered with the state of California to offer an apprenticeship program. So we were officially DOS registered. That's amazing. Aside from that, we did launch our first cohort and we secured employer partnerships primarily with Dianthus. We also were able to secure additional funding through the Workforce Development Board to support us with this program. And in the apprentice realm, they did complete their 5-week intensive mid-September and then transitioned to paid on-the-job training. And since then, we've celebrated them through breakfast, luncheons. We were also able to take them to Cabrillo College to give them a bit of a tour of the dental hygiene facility. So in the future, if they're interested in career advancement, that's an opportunity for them, local in the community. And we're also very proud to share that they're going to be able to get coronal polishing certification this year, which is an additional certification in their portfolio to advance as hopefully registered dental assistants in the future. And now it is my pleasure to introduce once again Mia Rodriguez. She is one of our 8 apprentices in the program. She currently is placed at Dianthus's Commercial Way Clinic, which is Dianthus's largest clinic, where they serve over 100 patients on a daily basis. Mia, are you come on over?
Thank you, everyone. I'm working at the Commercial Way location. It is our largest clinic. I was working at Dianthus for 2 years before this. I was working as a front office coordinator. Going into the dental assisting program and the apprenticeship really helped me by being able to be paid on the job and go to school to build my career. I hope to one day become a hygienist, and going to the Cabrillo hygiene program and seeing that just really opened my eyes and made me want to do more in life.
Thank you all for your ongoing support. And thank you, Mia, for sharing a bit of your experience with us this evening. And we're happy to take any questions if there are any.
Could I make a comment before we turn it over to questions? I so really feel so grateful and proud of this program. Stephanie was a key leader in writing the grant that they secured to work with Dianthus. And this really is what we consider a triple win for our community, right? Our community gets better services by having well-trained and effective folks who are available to work in our clinics and be able to provide these services. The clinics get a workforce that they're able to have as part of their team, and of course, the participants are able to get paid while they're on the job training, right? So that triple win is really this ideal combination, and the partnership with Dianthus, as Sony shared, has been really ideal, having this like-minded partner in this. And I just want to also thank Sony for her leadership, because this area of creating these opportunities for adults who are in our community and who have such amazing talent, skill, and resources and social capital, and to be able to create these opportunities for them to show what they're able to do, like Mia, and the lives she's going to impact and the way she's going to help our community be healthy is just something that I think is there are so many more opportunities like this that I hope we're going to be able to pursue with your support.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Yes, Ben Allen.
Well, thank you. This is really important. You might know, some of the board members know, I'm getting a whole mouth full of new teeth. And I have a great appreciation for dental assistants from this process. I wonder, I'm going to be seeing my dentist again for a whole series of adjustments. Is there a flyer or a card or something that I could hand them? Because I don't think while they're working on me, I can talk too much about the program, but I'd love to see if they are interested.
Absolutely. We have promotional materials that we can share with you, and that if this could serve as a call to action for any of y'all who have any of those connections, anybody who's willing to even try one apprentice, the employer does have to pay. They're committing, they're hiring that apprentice, and they have to agree with our pay scale. But that's our biggest challenge right now. Currently, Dientes is committed for 6 apprentices next year, and we're working on Salud para la gente. So yeah, we're looking, and we'll definitely get some materials to you. Yes.
Yeah, Rachel, go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to say what an amazing program. Bravo for pursuing, a passion of yours, and bravo to the organizers that are making it possible. So just wanted to say bravo. Congratulations.
Thank you, Trustee Williams.
Carson?
I just want to follow on both the comments. Great program. Would certainly like to propose it to my family's dentist to see if they're interested. I also attended the Association of California County Boards of Education training on Monday night, and the principal speaker was from the state apprentice labor apprentice standards division. She's new, she was acting, and now she's gotten the appointment. And it was just me not knowing, except that it was on the agenda this night. We were one of 2 counties mentioned as having a dental assistant apprenticeship program.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Roth?
Would work. Here we go. I would just like to comment that it's so nice that has already introduced them to the dental hygienist program at Cabrillo, and it is well known. And so that we now have this pathway in is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Roth.
Estrada?
I think I'm just going to echo what everyone else said, that it's an amazing program. I think that a big barrier in entering a new career is, making sure that you're properly compensated, especially, being, low income, coming from a low income family. You want to start making money as quickly as possible to support your family, as soon as I could. I was working through college and everything because it is so expensive over here. I don't know if you knew. So I just think this is an amazing program. It's fulfilling a community need while, I think, providing a pathway for a lot of folks to build a really, wonderful career for themselves, starting off really strong and giving this, this opportunity to people who probably would have said, I'd rather go into a field where I can start making money right now rather than investing lots of time, wasted opportunity, wasted income. So I think this is great. I absolutely love this.
Thank you, Trustee Estrada.
And I just want to thank Mia for coming here and talking to us about your own personal experience. I think it speaks volumes, the fact that there's this opportunity for people to grow within their current place of employment, right? You mentioned that it seems like there's interest in that job field and understanding, knowing more, And I'm glad to hear that there's a program in this county, that can help you out with that. You and anybody else who is interested in potentially for exploring this career field more. So thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. It's very inspirational, educational, and motivating for all of us. Thank you.
You.
Okay, moving along, we have the 2025 STEAM Expo presentation recognition of finalists with Dr. Russell and Dr. Wygant.
Yes, I'd like to welcome Dr. Russell and Dr. Wygant to share a little bit about the STEAM Expo. But before they do, I have to say how excited I am to see the evolution of this event. Our science fair has been well known for quite some time, and not only here, but it has been a challenge across this country to bring interest in the science fair and in science in general because of some of the challenges that we've experienced even before the pandemic. And one of these innovations that we have been able to implement the last 2 years. 2 years, yes, with Dr. Wygant as our science coordinator, has been really broadening the concept of to include a STEAM Expo, to include science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and really having a celebration that many of you were a part of. Trustee Larson was there. I think, how many of you got a chance to come by?
Everybody.
Many of you were there, volunteered in many cases. Thank you for that. And so I'm just so grateful for all the hard work that went into this, and we'd love to share some highlights and introduce some of our students who were able to demonstrate some amazing knowledge and talent. Welcome, Dr. Russell.
Thank you. So first, we just wanted to share a little bit about the mission and vision behind this expo. Really, some of the highlighted keywords there are the focus for us. So the mission is really about creating equitable opportunities and access for all students to engage in STEAM fair projects, as well as STEAM Expo, science and engineering, arts and mathematics. And then our vision is really to empower students to be innovative, creative engineers, determined makers in STEAM. And so those have been key focus areas as we've evolved the STEAM Expo over time. You heard a little bit earlier in student trustee Marcus's report about some of these various aspects of the STEAM Expo that we have. But first was the science fair. And so we had 3 different categories there of that competition. These were students who typically qualified at their school level to come then to the county. And it was invention convention qualifications. It was state science fair qualifications. And it was also the International Science and Engineering Fair qualifications, also called ISEF. And you can see many of the projects here. The second set of activities was the fine arts performances. These are some of the groups that we had, and you can see that was a really exciting opportunity event to see a wide variety of fine arts performances included throughout the full time of the STEAM Expo. And then the third category was that interactive STEAM Expo. And again, we had a wide variety of activities. Some of the most popular ones from this list you see on the screen was the first picture in the bottom left was the instrument petting zoo. And so you can see all ages demonstrated within these photos. Another, of course, very popular one was the X Academy and COE Robotics Club with the underwater ROVs. So that was extremely popular. I even saw an infant being held by father, and the infant was staring mesmerized at the robot in the pool. And then we also had, as you can see, the Tech Plus department of COE did the B-Bots and the robotics activities for students, again, of all ages. They had everything from 3-year-olds up to high school. Many, many more activities. Our PharmNG partnership was there, and you can see some of the connection between arts and science and engineering in the photo that you see in the upper right. And now I'm going to turn it over to Heather, who's going to share with you some of the data and details from the STEAM Expo.
Hello, everybody. So yeah, big thing, second year for the STEAM Expo. It's actually the 37th Science and Engineering Fair for Santa Cruz County. just side note. We had more projects this year than last year, so we are slowly growing again, about 141 projects and almost 200 students just in the science fair competition, and way more that were performing in a STEAM Expo with their classes or clubs or showing off what they were doing. Just, it was a great event. I do want to give a quick shout out to SoCal High School. They were the first time that they've participated, and one teacher brought 40 students and 15 senior projects, which was pretty amazing. So definitely boosted our high school participation rate just with one teacher at one school. So tagging into those would be really beneficial in the future. Make sure I hit the right one. Oops. And want to do a shout out to our top 3 senior project. Hazel is not able to be here with us tonight, but she was our top winner in our ISEF qualifier. But we do have Musa and Adi, come on up, that I'd like to have a brief moment to share about what their project was about and what they learned. So Musa, you want to go first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Musa Shafi. I'm a junior at Pacific Collegiate School. And for my project, I developed a low-cost adjustable below-the-knee prosthetic for kids. So I developed this device because, unfortunately, the process for developing the traditional process for developing prosthetics is both highly expensive and very lengthy. And so by developing this device, I was able to offer patients an alternate solution. Patients who are unable to afford or don't have access to traditional prosthetics.
Hello, my name is Adi Menon. I'm at 10th grade. I'm also at Pacific Collegiate School. My project was about autonomous vehicles, more specifically the artificial intelligence behind these autonomous vehicles. And in my project, I compared 2 different image recognition models through using traffic data. And by doing this, I was able to gather a lot of information, and I was able to learn a lot about these autonomous vehicles, how they function, and these AI models more specifically. And I learned a lot through this experience.
Thank you, too. Right, to the skin. Other fun things. So STEAM Expo participation, we did have record participation this year since COVID. So we had 28 schools represented, said about almost 200 students, 141 projects. Thank you to everybody that helped. We had multiple people that are in this room, were here volunteering, showing their support, talking to our media, and overall just having a great time, I hope. It looked like we were anyways. So big shout out and thank you to everybody that supported. We did take some feedback and evaluation from judges, volunteers, parents, teachers, and such. And then I also just want to do a quick highlight on our demographics. We are getting tiny bit closer in meeting our goals of getting to that demographics that represent our county. So historically, we've had very low Latinx population. We are definitely not where we want to be, but we are slowly making progress. So every little increment is in the right direction. And then thank you. We're going to continue increasing school participation, increasing working with students to increase our representation among all of our student groups, increase our disciplines, improving event operations, and we will see you March 28th at the fairgrounds. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from the board?
It's a simple statement. I was just blown away by it. And the last time I had been to a science fair was when my children were in school, and this was far surpassed it. And well, I guess a little bit more. I was impressed with the rubric system rather than the first, second, third place. I really like that. And next year, I'm going to explore it a bit more. I came as a volunteer. I really needed to come as well, a participant, especially with all those hands-on things, and also to see how the judging, where you're at round tables and discussion. I think that's just super. And last of all, I think that the adults who came were as enchanted with the hands-on, yes, as the students. And I don't know if we have the capacity to do this, but to encourage students that don't have a project to come, because I do think it's a fertile field for them to explore some things. So thank you. A lot of work, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
It was very much enjoyable to be able to volunteer and be there. I too just wanted to experience it. So after my volunteering, I went and toured around and was just so impressed that there was just that wide variety that would appeal to, you know, kids of all ages, including adults. And I'm much more of a of the arts part. So I really enjoyed sort of the children's drawing of the monsters and the interpretation. And I think there was an area where there was poems that were written for some of them on. Just so impressive. And so thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for all the hard work. I know, you know, it seems to go by really fast when it's happening, and we know all of the work that goes before it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I might just mention President Sanchez had to step out, but he was a judge, I guess, again this year. I saw him there and met his partner. It was my first time there, other than when I took my kids a couple hundred years ago. And it was incredible. It was just so different than I remembered. It didn't have any of the parenting stress involved. It just had the volunteer joy involved of helping out. And then touring the STEAM Expo, touring the Science Expo, and being blown away by exhibits at both, and then to culminate in the artistic presentations and the award ceremony. Incredible. I think I'll skip next year trying to drain the robotics pool because that was clearly above my pay grade.
We appreciate all you did do and all of the volunteers. We do appreciate it. So thank you. About half of this room was volunteers. So thank you.
And it looked like you were having a lot of fun back there draining that pool, so
Thank you.
So again, thank you all for being there. We really appreciate it. It is definitely a team effort. It is not just me at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for your really hard work. Thank you. Yeah, so up next we have 9.7. We're going to jump up in the agenda to 9.7, Resolution 25-09, supporting the Santa Cruz Workforce Housing Affordability Act. We have presenter Greg Larson and I believe some special guests as well. Bruce.
I'm involved in this campaign on a paid basis, so I need to stand aside from it, and I'll go sit in the audience while we deliberate.
Okay.
And as I start, this is the first report from the Community Outreach and Legislation Committee that my predecessor chaired, Sandra, and now I've taken over the role of chairing that. And the first item we have for you that the president said is a time certain is the resolution supporting the Santa Cruz Workforce Housing Affordability Act. And this subject was discussed at the first meeting of the Community Outreach and Legislation Committee that occurred in October. For the audience and board members, it's agenda packet page 205 with the resolution starting on page 206. And I just want to highlight from the beginning that the resolution before you lays out basically a series of reasons why the committee felt and is recommending to the board that we encourage placing this item on the ballot. We're not bringing forward to the board at this time an endorsement of the ballot measure because there haven't been arguments submitted for and against, as will occur in the electoral process. The work that's before the community right now is placing the measure on the ballot for November. And because of its benefit for workforce housing more broadly and for educator workforce housing specifically, not only just in Santa Cruz, but throughout the county, we think it's worthy of board consideration and placing on the ballot. And a few of the whereases I wanted to highlight in particular is that CSBA, as the board is aware, has sponsored 2 bills at the state level supporting educator workforce housing as one of their top priorities for the year. The city of Santa Cruz has already approved a city schools educator workforce housing project at the policy level that will now go into plan review and ultimately construction. We have Cabrillo as well as a trustee from Pajaro Valley who has expressed interest in educator workforce housing. And given housing is a fungible product that people who live in Santa Cruz work in other districts and people who live in other districts work in Santa Cruz, the boundaries aren't specific. Any benefit to workforce housing within the city of Santa Cruz will support workforce housing in the region, both in terms of actual new housing, but also in terms of being a model that might work for other communities. What we found over the last 15, 20 years is the local source of funding for affordable housing has dissipated through the loss of redevelopment and other state tools. What the city of Santa Cruz is looking at is to create a new local source of funding that would support future workforce housing. And I believe, and the committee believed, that if the board is willing to support putting this on the ballot, we can ensure that educator workforce housing is a central part of that discussion as we go forward. To actually describe the measure and the background on it, we do have 2 speakers, so Mr. Vice President, may be appropriate after I've introduced the item to now hear from the public comment. But the whereases pretty much explain why the committee is recommending that the board support placing this item on the ballot before the voters.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Larson. So are we going to go to public comment?
Yes, Vice President Estrada. The first public comment is from Andrew Goldenkranz. To the podium.
You okay if
Of course. So public
Yes.
comment from Elaine Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening, and thank you, Greg, for your support. My name is Elaine Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Santa Cruz County, and we're the lead organization on the Workforce Housing Solutions measure that we have been working tirelessly getting signatures to put it on the November ballot. For the last 2 years, my organization and many community members have come together and had many discussions about putting something on the ballot because, as we all know, we have a housing crisis here in Santa Cruz County. And so we also knew that the money in the workforce in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was diminishing, and we needed to do what we needed to do to be able to fill that up so that we have funding for people to get homes, we have funding for people to make sure they stay housed, that we have funding for seniors, and a whole wealth of things, which you could probably find information there. But we stand here before you today, and we ask for your support because it is so critical as we now see what's happening with funding on a global level that a lot of money when it comes to housing is being cut. And so on a local level, we are doing whatever we can to bring funding into this community. And so we'd like to ask for your support. We have a lot of volunteers that's been out there knocking on a lot of doors, getting the community's support. And one of the things I do want to stress is, in this process, we've had the community support from the beginning, which is absolutely critical. It wasn't just my organization or just one other person. The city of Santa Cruz has been instrumental in supporting this measure. And so we thank you for your support. And I'll bring up my colleague and board member, Andrew Rosenkrantz, who will talk some more about this. Thank you.
Thank you. And to clarify, so we have, is it 3 minutes? Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you, trustees and superintendent. It's good to be here. I want to speak for a minute about the impact on school staff and students. And then I want to talk, I don't really think I have to expand on the need for housing. We all recognize housing is such a difficult challenge in our community. But I want to give a little bit of particulars about why we think this is a solid solution that will benefit us. I'm finishing my 36th year in public education, very proud to have taken this journey. And I think we all know that you can't make great schools without great school staff, whether teachers and classified staff and administrators. And you can't recruit and retain school staff unless they got a place to live. I think those of you who are on the ground in schools understand that one of the main reasons why people leave is because they can't afford to live here, or they'll go to other districts, which is what I had to do. I left Santa Cruz County and I work in Santa Clara County because that's what I needed to be able to pay for housing here. The second thing is I want to speak to what happens to our students. When I see students in distress, which we see virtually every day, whatever the symptom is of the distress that they're feeling and experiencing, as we start interviewing them and talking to the families and talking to counselors and social workers, housing challenges are always present. We have over 50% of our students in this county who are experiencing housing stress. And what that means is they're paying more than half of their family income on housing. So if we can make an effort to support these kinds of solutions, it's going to help us in our core business, which is how we educate our families and our kids. Here are a couple of reasons why I've chosen to get involved in this particular effort. In the city of Santa Cruz, last 4 or 5 years, the city's put in a little under $2.5 million into different kinds of below market rate housing projects. And mostly what that allows them to do is leverage other federal and state money. And they've used that $2.5 million to leverage about $60 million. So it's about a 30-to-1 ratio. If this initiative passes, it would increase the investment by the city by tenfold. It'd be a minimum of $5 million a year coming from city taxpayers in order to support that. So if you think about the magnitude of impact that we'll be able to have if we can continue to leverage that, especially in this day and age of reduced confidence in what's happening at the federal and state level, then if we can rely on local resources, we'll be much better. A second thing that's important, we're all in the good government business, is that other cities that have enacted programs like this, typically the city administration takes 8 to 10% off the top for administrative charges. We've gotten City Clerk Bush to agree to 3%. Plus, there's no new government structure. This is putting money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So it's an ongoing thing. So we think it's a lean and mean program that we think will be of substantial benefit. I know my time is up, so I appreciate that. Obviously, Elaine and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for your comments. Now going discussion amongst the board. Sorry, this is my first time chairing the meeting. And first item. Okay, discussion, comments.
I've already made my comments. I think the speakers and myself can respond to questions and comments from the board.
Thank you both, Elaine Johnson and Andrew Goldenkrantz. Appreciate the work that, Elaine, you're doing in housing and all the work that you've been doing in the community. Andrew, thank you so much. I don't have any questions, and I am in support. And I don't know if there's going to be any other discussion, but I would.
Just a comment, please. Thank you for coming. And I feel better listening to what I have. Especially there was a news article today and I struggled to try to read the whole thing and could not get into the article. And so I came kind of frazzled here. And I'm glad that this is our ability to say that we support your going ahead with it rather than, you know, a stamp of approval or whatever. I realize there's a lot of work to be done. And I appreciate it because housing over the past, I don't know, maybe 10 years of me being here is, it's never left the top position. I hope that there is something that we can do. So again, I appreciate bringing this topic and that we will hear more. And a thank you to Santa Cruz City Schools.
Thank you. And also because our student trustee will also vote on this, I wanted to see if you had any comments.
Yeah, I guess my question is just what does the act look like exactly?
Yeah, it is in our board agenda all the way down on page 208.
It is summarized in the resolution and it's detailed in the attorney description that's attached.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, the attorney's interpretation, summarization of the act.
For student trustee Marcus's education, it's a two-pronged tax measure. One is a parcel tax, which can be enacted by the voters and is often done in support of schools and special needs and services throughout the county, broadly defined. The other one that's a little more novel for Santa Cruz, but has been used in many other counties throughout the state, is a real estate transfer tax. What's interesting about the proposal that's come from the community leadership, which leads me to be intrigued with seeing this go before the board, is that it's been structured as what's called a progressive tax, where it doesn't apply at all for a parcel that's being sold for less than $1.8 million. And then it rises over that up to a capped. So it's not wide open, but it creates a progressive tax structure, which I think distributes the burden for affordable housing to those who can most afford to pay.
Thank you. Any other comments or motions?
Since it comes from the committee, I'd like to make the motion.
Yeah, I would like to make a slight change to the motion or to the resolution. There's the last recital that says supporting workforce housing, affordable act. I feel like that is not necessarily kind of inconsistent with what we normally do with our resolutions because all resolutions are from the committee are being recommended. So I would second it with that removal, with the removal of the last recital.
Sure.
Okay. So trustee Larson moved to.
As amended.
Okay, as amended to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So this is a roll call vote. Berenice?
Student trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Yes.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Williams.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled program. So it was 8.7, second interim financial report presented by Leanne, my girl. Always love these. I always look forward to them. You make numbers fun.
Yes, I'd like to welcome our Deputy Superintendent, Leanne Reyes. Thank you both for coming. And to talk to us about our second interim. And of course, we have an amazing team that has been working very, very hard, not only in support of our school districts, but also in ensuring that we have the very best and up-to-date information to share with you today about our second interim, and also to keep an eye on how to protect the kind of the fiduciary responsibilities that you have, which are some of the most fundamentally important responsibilities you have as County Board of Education members. So grateful to Deputy Reyes, who's going to be giving us a presentation today.
Good evening, Board. So if we could go ahead and get started. Second interim wouldn't happen without the help of many hands. So I always want to make sure that I acknowledge and recognize the hard work of our internal business services team, which is Melissa Lopez, Michelle Kennedy, Tara Lee, Brooke Rosso, Nitia Ambrosi, and Shay Placencia. So bravo, job well done, ladies. You really want me to do my own clicking and talk? Thanks, Marisha. Like I can't chew gum and walk down the sidewalk. But thank you for giving me the challenge, but I called in a lifeline right here. So today we're going to be discussing the budget and reporting processes, an overview of the 24-25 second interim report, the key differences between the 24-25 first interim and second interim, our multi-year projections, what's next, and then recommendations. I also wanted to let the board know that we were able to have our board budget overview committee earlier this week and went through questions and answers for them. And they're nodding, so I think we have their approval of what we're about to present to you this evening. So as a reminder and an update, this is where we are in the budgeting and reporting process. We are at second interim, which is noted by the yellow font up there. That captures all of our activity through January 31st, and we are required to bring it to you by March 17th, give or take a little wiggle room for board meeting dates. Second interim is an opportunity that we use to make any adjustments to our budget based on actual year-to-date spending, any trends, any new information that might have come to light. It's also a way to project where we think we might be by the end of the fiscal year at June 30th. So it's always important with our school budgets to keep in mind that this is only a snapshot in time, and it's based on what we know as of today, which is becoming a little bit more challenging with some of the federal actions that we're seeing right now. So this is what we know as of like this moment in time. Okay. There are 3 certification classifications for each interim reporting period, and these have to be certified by the county superintendent of schools, and those classifications are a positive certification, a qualified certification, and a negative certification. Positive means that we will be able to meet our financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years, whereas a qualified certification means that an entity may not meet its financial obligations for the current or 2 subsequent fiscal years. And then a negative certification, which makes all of us really sad if that happens, is assigned to an entity that would be unable to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of the current fiscal year or for the subsequent fiscal year. So we are pleased to report that the COE will be filing our positive certification for the 24-25 second interim, and that signifies that we can meet our obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years, that we will have a positive ending cash and fund balance in our County School Service Fund 01 at the end of fiscal year 26-27, as well as our 5% reserve in the special reserve account, which is Fund 17, and there's more, positive ending cash balances in all of our COE funds. And cash is really the key indicator here when we're looking at what makes the difference between a positive or, let's say, a negative certification. If you don't have cash, it's game over. So thumbs up to the team. We will be filing positive. So a summary of some of our key updates that you'll be looking at in a little more detail tonight. We had a unrestricted LCFF increase of $1.3 million. And this increase was driven primarily by our unduplicated pupil counts from adopted budget we had planned on 49.99%. And when our census day rolled around later in October, we found that our rate was just under 65%. So that opens up a lot more funding opportunities for us. For those of you that have been on the board for a minute, you know that we always budget very conservatively at the adopted budget, and we try to stay under that 50% mark simply because by triggering that mark, it does open up more funding for us, and we would hate to overstate if the round of students we have in the current year aren't the counts aren't as high as the prior year. And I do want to say that I'm aware that the alternative education group had gone out and done a really good job of trying to collect packets and information that gave us the ability to reach that 65%. In fact, Melissa Lopez was saying, when I saw that number, I thought it was wrong. So I went back down and was like, did you guys make a mistake? Are you sure this is right? And they had all the documentation to back it up. So that did open up a lot more funding opportunities. In addition, we had updated allocations for our restricted programs. You can see the list up there. Medi-Cal LEA billing. We had the Golden State Pathway grant year 1 of year 4. Also, as you know, many of our grants come in over a multi-year period. We'll talk a little bit more about the impact of that in a few moments. Outdoor Science School. So this list represents nearly an increase of almost $2 million when you think about both sides of our budget. You know, my husband saw this slide when I was reviewing last night, and he was like, oh, too many numbers on the page. And I was like, I love this page. Anyway, so if some of you are feeling, I apologize. So this is a high-level review at a glance showing the combined, and I want to make sure you hear that part, combined, unrestricted and restricted for all of our Fund 1. If you like to follow along in your board packet, we're on page 82. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and continue on. The first interim budget amounts are shown above in the first column. So this is where we thought we were going to be. The second interim amounts are found in the projected year totals, which would be column D if you're looking at your SACS report, with the difference between those two periods showing up in column E. So column D represents where, again, emphasis on the current time, we think that the COE might end in June. So you can see that overall, we projected when we were at adopted budget, which isn't on this particular page, but it will be in your SACS packet, that we were going to have a $3.6 million deficit in our budgeting. And at first interim, that deficit was reduced significantly down to $640,000. And now at second interim, there will be an estimated surplus on both sides of the budget of approximately $2.2 million, of which we just talked about a really large chunk of that and where it came from. So the change in that $2.2 million really is being driven primarily by that LCFF change and also by about $800,000 that came in new on the restricted side of the budget. So if you look at your board packet, page 83, on Form 1, you will see a listing of all the assignments that we have in conjunction with these fund balances. So moving on to the next slide, we are looking now at just the unrestricted side of the budget. I sometimes refer to this side as our meat and potatoes side of our budget. This is the budget that comes with much more greater amount of flexibility. It doesn't have any strings attached for the most part. I say for the most part because we do receive some funds that the state decided to call targeted instead of calling them restricted. So those targeted funds kind of act like restricted funds inside the unrestricted side. So we always have to be really careful to make sure we separate out those monies. If you now want to know where we are in your board packet, I'm on your page 65, and that's Form 01. So the first interim amounts again are shown on column in your board packet in column C, I think it is, D, sorry. And then the difference between our two periods are again in column E. So the adopted budget, which you will see in your SACS, but not necessarily on this slide, Again, it projected about $2 million in deficit spending, and at first interim, that number had softened also down to about 837 million. Sorry, yes, thousand and 1,000 million. And now at second interim, we actually are showing a small surplus of about $466,000. So included in your total expenditures and transfers out for unrestricted is approximately $2.5 million of contributions, remembering that these dollars primarily go to our routine and restricted maintenance program. We also do help support our new teacher project. We have our special education program, Alter Ed special education program, our Tier 2 admin credentialing program. So there's a lot of things that we help support. Alter Ed Sports League, that's tiny but so important, tiny and mighty. I love sports programs. I think that helps keep kids really busy. So I'm always happy to see that. And numerous other small contributions. Again, you can see our assignments for these fund balances on page 66 of your board packet. Uh-oh, we had a little bump on that one. But this is our restricted budget. At least you can see the numbers. The heading's a little cut off, but that's okay, Hannah. Restricted is also, as you are well aware, a little bit more directed. It's quite a bit more directed. The money comes in, the money has strings attached. There's rules about when to spend it, how long you have to spend it, and what you can spend it on. So you can see on this slide that our total revenue coming in at first interim was around 43 million, and that's grown to about 43.9 million, or an increase of $600,000. Our expenses have also gone from 43 down to 42 million, or a change of 928 million. Again, trying to remember the nuances of your restricted budget. You may have lots of money that's coming in, but you may also be needing to preserve or save that over a 2 or 3 year period in accordance with the terms of your grant. So at times you will see that ending fund balance change. As we can here, we go from 9.5 million to an estimated 11 million at second interim, or an increase of about $1.5 million. When we get to our multi-year projections, you'll see that fund balance dropping dramatically. Fear not, that's a plan. So I know sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, this number's going down so dramatically, but that's because we're finally spending out year 2 and year 3 of dollars we received back in year 1. Talking about the multi-year projection, let's talk really quick about the assumptions that we use to build out our multi-year projection. We have negotiations that were already settled, of course, for 24-25, and so the cost of all those agreements are already included in our budget prior to second interim. We always plan for step and column for certificated and classified staff at the rates of 1.3 and 1.2% respectively. Our STRS rate is 19.1% for the current and 2 subsequent years, and that number remains relatively flat, and because it's only subject to change when the legislature gets together and decides to vote on that. PERS, on the other hand, is a mind of its own. PERS rates can increase every year, and they are currently at 27.05%, 27.4%, and then 27.5%, and those are the amounts that we used for our multi-year. We estimated an increase in costs for the health and welfare at 8.5% per year. And then the art of trying to manage all of these one-time funds. We've adjusted and removed out any one-time revenues and expenditures for the subsequent years. And then there's a little brief list there of what some of those funds are. And then our cost of living adjustment for both 25-26 and 26-27. We also try to be very conservative on our COLA adjustments, especially considering the volatility and looking at the volatility we're seeing in our overall economic outlook. And so we actually use a 1%, which also helps contribute to that number we just talked about earlier on our LCFF. We had used a very conservative number to begin with, but now that the dust has really settled in on what the current year amount was, then we were able to fold that into our projections. I love this guy from SpongeBob because that's kind of how I feel sometimes, like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. This is a great slide to help demonstrate that. I know you're used to seeing it, but I just can't get rid of it because I like it so much. Because it really helps demonstrate the volatility of what people think's going to happen and then where we are as of today. So I always like to say, check out that 23-24 year. You know, in fiscal year 22-23, they thought the COLA was going to come at 3.6. And by the time 23-24 actually rolled around, it was at a whopping, and I mean whopping, 8.22%. 22 years in the business, I've never seen a COLA that large, very unusual. And then if you look, which is kind of what I'm used to seeing as the trend for fiscal year 25-26, back in 1922-23, they said, oh, your COLA is going to be 3.62%. And here we are projecting for next year a COLA of 2.43. So it's slowly, it's degrading. And so if you look at most of these numbers, you're going to see the more mature the data gets, you can see that that COLA sum does have a lot of movement in it. And so that's why it's also super important to remember that these are just projections based on what we know as of today. Luckily, though, on here, we don't have anything going back as far as 07, 08 or 09, 10. For those of you who are around then, Ruben, I don't know if you were born yet, but for those, the rest of us who are around then, I'm kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. We had what we called the 7-up years. We actually had negative COLA, and the state was not paying any COLA. They were giving us IOUs. So the chart would be too long for me to go back then, but we were all very traumatized back in those years. All right, so funded ADA, and I want to make sure you heard that emphasis I just made on the word funded, which is different from our ADA. So funded ADA can be based on one of three methods. It can be based on the greater of your prior year, or relatively new, back in 23-24, we were allowed to use the 3 prior years average to use those amounts to calculate our LCFF. I am also, if you want to make a quick note, I'm on page 151 of your board packet. So what we like to show you is just kind of what our 5-year trend has been. This was really, really hard to do coming out of the COVID years because the way we calculated ADA was super funky. There's no other way to say it. And it was not based on the traditional method of current or prior year. And we had never had anything as dramatic as COVID that really disrupted our attendance factor. So we've been kind of tracking like what happened pre-COVID, to be honest, upstairs in my office, we track how are students or districts doing pre-COVID, how are we doing pre-COVID? Let's throw out these years in the middle, and now let's kind of start looking forward to see if we can establish some kind of a new trending pattern. And so our COE alt-ed programs were starting to show some increases post-COVID. Right now, what we're estimating for our second interim, our alt-ed division is coming in at around 905.98. Unlike a traditional school district, if any of you listen and go to those board meetings, usually there are ADA declines between second and first interim. In our case, our ADA generally, almost always, you'd probably bet on it in Vegas if you wanted to, goes up. And it's also, we have a lot of kids that come in a lot during that second semester timeframe where maybe the academic program that they're experiencing just isn't a good fit for them, and they come to our programs. And then when we get funded based on our year-end ADA. So we don't even know what we're going to make this year until the year's over, which always is kind of challenging and fun too. Our special education funding is 91.86. Our charter school, Sony's other program, is at 225.18. Look where they were a couple of years ago. They were at 137. They've really been growing that program with amazing success, and it's just, we really applaud their efforts. They've been doing a great job for our students. And then our county-wide ADA is at 33,994, and that's the number that we use when we're trying to calculate our county operations grant. Okay. So knowing all of that and thinking about the assumptions that we had talked about a few slides ago, our multi-year projection for our unrestricted budget is what's being displayed now. This is on your SACS form that says MYPI in the upper right-hand corner, and it's pages 153 and 154 of your board packet. So the second interim amounts shown in our projected year totals, which is on column A. The 25-26 is column C, and the 26-27 is column E. So again, these projections, I also want to talk to you about is it does not include any of the unrealized gains or losses impacts. And you know that, at the end of the year, when we close the books, there's always this crazy swing of, lately it's been around $1 million that we have to book based on our unrealized gains or losses in the county treasurer's office. But it's not, we book it on June 30th and we reverse it on July 1st. It's an accounting thing that we need to do. And I always caution everyone in my districts and especially my own board about right now, we've been having to book what's called an unrealized loss, which means it drives down what our ending fund balance could be. However, if we're in an environment where things start turning around and we start having unrealized gains, that's where I'm really cautioning my CBOs in the county because it could overly inflate what you think your ending fund balance is. And that's really a difficult thing to try to explain to your union. Like, yes, I know I'm showing plus 2 million, but it's not. So these numbers are what I call pure. I always ask Melissa and Becky, right? These are the pure numbers, right? There's no sloshing around with that silly fair market value adjustment. So this current year, we are projecting in our unrestricted an ending fund balance of 27.6 million, showing that 466,000 surplus for the current year. And then our out years, as always, are showing rather large deficits, 2.4 million and 3.3 million. But we always budget for all of our vacancies. We always budget for worst case scenario because we want to be prepared. I know one of the questions that came in earlier that we weren't able to respond to is how do you prepare, right, for things. You see that preparation when you see a big deficit like this. That's probably not going to really happen, but that's more of us preparing in the event that we experience something extraordinary. And then we're prepared for it financially. The next slide shows our restricted multi-year projections. Right now, as we talked about earlier, we're ending the current year with $11 million. And then you're going to see large deficit spending in 25-26 of about $2 million, spending down those grants, spending down that one-time money, spending down year 2 out of a 3-year grant. And then in the 3rd year out, we drop down to about $9,014,000. So this is a very normal pattern. I know that you've all been around long enough to recognize that may look scary, but it's not really that scary. It's planned deficit spending and not all deficit spending is bad. So combined, we just take those last 2 slides, we put them together, and here's what our overall position is then as of second interim. Again, our ending fund balance is for the current year projected to be at $38.7 million. Just remember that not all of that's money we can use for whatever we want. We have to take out at least 11 million from that number to know what our true kind of our operating for anything, the anything bucket is worth. Going out to 25-26, we're down to about a 34.2 million and then a 30.8 million in the 3rd year. Again, remembering all those assumptions that we talked about, the spending down of one-time monies, the conservative COLA, the conservative ADA. We keep it very close, very conservative so that we have room to make decisions in the future if we need to. So criteria and standards review. In the past, I had about 4 or 5 slides that really detailed out all the detail. And I thought, I have an intelligent board that can read the really long descriptions in the board packet. So we decided to go with this new grid. I hope you like it. If not, just email me and say, no, I like the long way better. But we just highlighted the ones that if you were a community member trying to figure out what does this mean? Is this good or a bad thing? Why didn't they meet this? Those were the ones I decided to put in the grid so that you would know it's not a bad thing. For example, ADA for your current or subsequent year changed by more than 2%. That's true because we just updated based on all those UPP and all of our changes that we saw for our ADA. LCFF revenue changed by more than 2%. That's right, it changed to the positive, again, for the same reasons we just spoke about. Other revenues or expenditures changed more than 5%. That's right, LCFF went up, so it's not a bad thing. We're good, we're still good. Deficit spending budgeted in subsequent years. We always use conservative revenue and expenditure projections in order to try to predict worst case scenario. So that's, again, don't be scared. It's not a bad thing. It's good. Contributions changed since first interim by more than $20,000. That's a really low bar. It's always going to have a not met, I think, on that one. So contributions have decreased a little bit since first interim for current and both the two subsequent years. A3, county operations grant ADA is decreasing in the current and subsequent years. Yes, that's because we try to predict out what our declining enrollment would be, knowing that a big chunk, our countywide grant is based on countywide attendance and enrollment, right? So of course that we are seeing severe declining enrollment. And then lastly, salary increases exceed state-funded cost of living adjustment, COLA. And it was, yes, all of our units in this current fiscal year received a 2% increase. The COLA was only 1.07. So I do want to just zero in a little bit now on A5, again, for those of you who are following along, like what your local districts are doing in your various trustee areas. Item A5 speaks to salary increases that are greater than the state COLA. And I want to make sure that you're aware that's what the state declares the COLA should be, okay? But what's interesting is that so many of our districts, because of declining enrollment, they don't even receive the full monetary value of what the state has actually set aside to fund for COLA, okay? So the emphasis is that you may have states that are rather districts that are saying, well, we're going to give the COLA to our unions and we're going to do this or that, but they don't actually receive that much money or that much COLA. And also COLA is also intended to be used for all your other expenses that go up, like utilities, insurance, and things as well. It can end up being much significantly less. For example, this year we reviewed a public disclosure document and our state-funded COLA was 1.07%, but this particular district, due to their declining enrollment, was actually at a negative 2%. When you calculate back out. And that's something that Rebecca and I do on the normal. We are always like, okay, we know what the COLA is supposed to be, but how much did they really get? And in many instances, due to declining enrollment, people are getting less. So it makes for tricky calculations for them, I guess. Something just to be aware of. So what's next? So next in our cycle is the governor's proposed budget. That was released in January, and we're going to use this proposal to help formulate our initial assumptions for the preparation of the 25-26 COE budget. Once the May revise is released, which will be soon, May 14th, I believe, any major impacts then get incorporated as a final refinement for the 25-26 budgets. So basically, we're pretty much done with all of our budget prep. And then the May revise comes on and we do a little bit of a last minute smoothing or massaging or whatever to get us as close as possible to where we think the actual signed budget's going to be. And then we continue our ongoing monitoring of revenues and expenditures as we develop the budget, but then also take one more look and comb through our 24-25 actuals to come up with what we think our estimates will be as of the end of the year, which are super critical at this period because that's what informs our beginning balance for our adopted budget. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Was there any comments, questions from the board?
Thank you to the business department for our committee meeting. I always learn something, and I want to report that we are blessed with someone who has done a lot with city budgets, et cetera, and so he's very comfortable. And some of the questions he asked, I learned from. So, yeah, thank you. Good work.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this was just a report. So we are now moving on to item 9.1, approving the 25-26 COE and student program calendar. Dr. Sabah.
Yes, thank you. As always, we bring forth the calendar. Part of our process is to work with our partner districts to look at what programs they have. As you may well know, our special education program, the students actually follow the calendar of the schools where they're physically located. And so if we have a program in a Scotts Valley Elementary School or at SoCal High School or something, that we actually, those special education programs, so part of when we start the school year does have an effect on that. And so this covers the students who are in our programs, mostly our alternative education students. It doesn't impact so much those of us that work in this building, for example, because if students may not have that day, they may not be going to school that day, but we're still working here. And so we wanted to review this. I did want to point out some important points. When the school year starts, you'll notice that the first day of the semester for students is going to be August 7th. And so we'll have some preparation. That's a early start, and that's where most of the county is going to be starting that week. We had tried, unfortunately unsuccessfully, to get as close as possible to a unified calendar in our. However, because the calendar goes through negotiations for many of our districts first, and so they negotiate with their bargaining units, and then as we do, we also take this to our bargaining units. And in many cases, there isn't as much an interest in trying to have a unified calendar as there is honoring the constituents who are part of the bargaining units. And so we have not been successful in getting there. I did want to also point out that in February, you'll notice that there is a week for students. This is something that San Lorenzo Valley does, that students have a week off in February. And also you'll notice that in November, the students will have a full week for Thanksgiving. So those are two things that are different than maybe what you've seen. And we do also have 2 weeks of winter break, and our school year, our semester will end on May 29th. And that's most of our school districts are ending either there or by June 5th. And so hasn't really changed. So our graduations are probably going to be that week of May 25th. So any questions about?
Spring breaks are standardized, though.
Yes, we generally match
Spring
all
and
of our
fall.
spring breaks, yeah.
And then the board holiday designation, what is that?
Well, your approval of these dates makes them board holidays, because when you identify them as days that students don't have to go to school, then they're not official holidays, they're board holidays.
So if we don't approve this, then Thanksgiving's gone.
That's,
Day
well.
after Christmas is gone.
So
Day
there
after
are,
New Year's is
there
gone.
are.
I move approval.
It'd be a very unpopular thing to do, Trustee Larson, but yeah, so the board holidays are the ones that are approved by the board that aren't necessarily the official national holidays that are approved by.
Well, I appreciate that you all make the effort to try to unify. I have my last child graduating this year, so I won't have to worry about it. But I know that there are many parents who have students in different districts, and it becomes very challenging when they are not aligned. So thank you for the effort, at least. Of course, we understand that it's not always possible. If you had to guess, what district does this most align with, just for the sake of?
Well, the February week off, that's San Lorenzo Valley is the
okay.
one that does that one. I believe that Santa Cruz City Schools also has a week off for Thanksgiving. Yes. So those two are probably and the earlier, I think PVSC is the one that usually ends a little bit later, like on June 5th, but most of the other ones are now ending.
Well, I would move to approve the 2025-26 COE and student program calendar.
Okay, motion by Williams, second by Van Allen. This is a voice vote. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Okay. This is so weird for me doing this. Okay. Moving on to item 9.2, first reading of board policies in the 1000s series, presented by Policy Committee Chair Van Allen. And so we have the option of, it's a first and second reading by the board, but we may also waive a second reading or move to take another action or order changes or things like that. Just clarifying that. But yes.
Trustees, thank you. This is two policies that essentially are dictated almost down to the word by state law and state ed code regulations. And so we don't have a lot of choice in this, but fortunately, they address complaint procedures, which is a big part of how we interface with the public when something is not as good as it could be. And so it's important that we have these procedures and that we adopt them and update them according to the state rules. So I don't think it's necessary to like dig into the specifics of these. I think probably people have had a chance to read them. And again, it's pretty much set for us by state law and ed code. So I would recommend approval, and we have the option to waive the second reading, and that would be the recommendation of the committee, that we adopt it and waive the second reading.
Okay, is there any discussion or a motion?
Microphone, there we go. This kind of goes along with the speaker that we had under public speaking. Which comes first, the state or the federal? That's the first question.
So if there's federal law and state law, then federal law would consider to supersede the authority of the state law. I'll be talking a little bit about state law versus administrative regulations coming from, because that's a little bit different. But if there is a contradiction or a conflict between state law and federal law, then federal law will prevail.
And so, like in what we're looking at, that there's a section or instructional materials and curriculum diversity and migrant education. And so if there is a federal change, then are we covered until the state adopts whatever, if the federal government does adopt it in a correct manner that doesn't end up in the courts? Are we covered?
Well, I think you bring up exactly the point, which is that if federal law were to be enacted through the proper process, and it would be most likely challenged in the courts before it would be able to take effect and impact and require us to change state law. So if that were to happen, if a federal law were to pass and the challenges in the courts are resolved, then state law would have to comply, would have to be modified to be able to comply under federal law. However, that process, we would anticipate that in many cases, if the federal law violates the Constitution, or it will be challenged probably all the way up to the Supreme Court, then it would not go into effect if the court system were to find it to be outside of outside of the Constitution or in violation of their aspects of the law and the protections.
I'm just concerned about lawsuits. I mean, we've just done the budget and we're good at it. We don't have excess funding to
And most of, I would say that we wouldn't be taking on the lawsuits ourselves locally. If we're talking about federal law when it comes to educational law, we would be, it is the state, California Department of Education and the state of California that would be taking that on, and they've made a commitment to do so.
So it would never drop down to our level.
It's
Okay,
it's less likely.
okay,
It's
I'm
less
putting
likely.
you on the
yes.
spot, so
Yeah.
no.
It's less likely that we would be directly involved in litigation against the federal government because most of it goes through the state educational agency, when it comes to funding and so really we would be partnering with our leaders at the state level for this.
Two comments. One, as much as I love doing budget and finance with Trustee North, I love that Trustees Van Allen and Williams are going through this and looking at it. One question for the future, given that we're an uncharted turf and maybe scary turf, wherever we get as the source of the new language, that says, if we could ask them just to highlight what are the big changes from year to year? Because I think every word here, assuming has been vetted, really may be more relevant. Especially.
A lot of times, policy changes come to us via CSBA and their work to interpret new legislation, and they often have given us marked up documents to show this. This one had a slightly different route to us, so.
And it wouldn't be to go over whatever they pop out.
I'm not sure if Dr. Eisen Gonzalez looks like you are wanting to say something about this.
Not tonight.
If it's okay, I can, thank you for hearing me. I wondered if that might be a question for these particular policies. The one change that happened since the last time we adopted it 3 years ago was for uniform complaint procedures, the appeal process went from 15 days to 30 days. And I honestly could not find one single change in the Williams one, except that the California Department of Education, which gave us these policies and said, you have to do this, said you have to do this. But I looked because I thought maybe someone would be curious. But in the future, because I might have some more policies coming, I will be sure to present relevant changes. But these are just like Bruce Van Allen said, it's not much.
Thank you. Any other comments or motion?
Well, I'll move the resolution as from the committee.
I'll second.
If I could ask for a clarification, is this to waive the second reading
Oh,
as part of the
and
resolution?
move the resolution and waive the second reading, yes. Well, move the policy.
Okay, so there is a motion to accept the following proposed policy as submitted and waive a second reading, seconded by Trustee Roth. And this is a voice vote, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9.3, Resolution 25-06, recognizing April as National Bilingual Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month, presented by Trustee Larson.
Thank you, Vice President Estrada. Following on the great work of my predecessor, we have 4 resolutions before you tonight that were adopted by the board a year ago. With some minor changes, staff through their work with the committee for some of the resolutions has updated dates or events or sources of involved parties. Then for several of the resolutions, we added a new whereas that just acknowledged that with federal changes in policy, staffing, and funding, there may be additional impacts on either environmental protection or our Arab American community or others. And we added those whereases just to reflect the current reality we face. So with that umbrella introduction, thanks to former trustee Nichols and Van Allen for their work. These have been reviewed by the committee and they're back to you again with thanks to Nick and Berenice. They are all carry forwards. I do want to highlight for the Santa Cruz County Family Engagement Collaborative that's before us tonight, recognizing both COE staff, I believe it's Denise Pittman Rosas and Barbara Hubner in the multilingual program. Both supported by this resolution for you tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Larson. Is there any discussion? Motion? Oh, Trustee Roth.
And it's for the next, what, 3? The use of the word national. Where does that come from?
There's actually multiple sources online, including the state California Department of Education, that provides a summary of various resolutions that and many of these have national equivalents. So they're state, national, and now county. Some districts could even adopt.
I just had a clarifying question. There's a percentage in, it says, in the summary, it says 42% of the students, but in the resolution, it says 40%. I just wanted to see which one that is and then make sure we have that one, the correct percentage in the, I mean, it's minor, but thought I'd ask as a clarifying question.
I didn't catch that, and I'll defer to staff which number is correct.
The correct one would be 40%. So that is my error. My apologies.
So it's correct in the resolution that's before you.
And I move to approve the resolution. Unless there's other comments.
I'll second it
Okay.
from the committee.
Motion by Trustee Williams, second by Larson. This is a roll call vote. Berenice?
Student trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Aye.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Van Allen, trustee Williams.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on to 9.4, Resolution 25-07, in recognition of National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Trustee Larson?
This again comes from the committee, as we've discussed. No particular citing of involved staff or partners, but really a recognition that all of this work is done with a wide array of partners, from nonprofit, governmental, and even private sector, with a call to individual action and recognition that we all have a role to play in child abuse prevention. So with that, I'll move approval.
Okay, was there anyone wanted to make any other comments, discussion? Okay, so was that a motion, Trustee Larson to?
Correct.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Van Allen. Roll call vote. Berenice?
Student trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Yes.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Van Allen,
Aye.
trustee Williams.
Passes unanimously. Thank you all. Item 9.5, Resolution 25-08, recognizing April as National Arab American Heritage Month. Trustee Larson.
You bet. Only one more after this. So again, it's a carry forward resolution from prior years. It the resolution specifically cites the challenges faced by our Arab American community. And there is an additional whereas provided that's available on page 199 of the packet, which has whereas recent changes in federal policy funding and staffing are creating new concerns and uncertainties for immigrant communities, including Arab Americans. And it's of infusing the current discourse in many of these resolutions. And with that, I'll move approval based on the committee consideration.
Okay, there's a motion, but any other comments? Okay, or a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Roth. Oh,
Yeah,
trustee Van Allen.
I find the actions of the federal administration to be abhorrent, un-American, and a rejection of our country's attempt to create good and just and equal society. They are directly an opposite of that. Treatment of Arab Americans or people of Arabic legacy or heritage are just inexcusable, racist, discriminatory based on free speech, and unacceptable. So I just want to say that to me, I don't have any sanction for this federal government right now.
Thank you for your comment. So there is a motion by Larson, second by Roth. This is a roll call vote.
Student trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Yes.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Van Allen,
Aye.
trustee Williams.
Passes unanimously. On to item 9.6, first reading of board bylaws in the 9000s series, presented by Van Allen.
Trustees, these two board policies are pretty much came out of our recent experience with our orientation and training and adopted with some changes that have come down from on high. And again, they're fairly routine and I recommend approval and waiver of the second reading.
I would like to move to approve, but not with this as a first and second reading, just as a first reading to give committee more time to review, see how we can improve and maybe add. It had like few days to review it. So
Oh,
I'd
okay.
like more opportunity for us to expand upon it.
Okay, a second reading would be of the same text though, so.
Not necessarily.
Well, we'd have to do it with amendments at the time.
Exactly.
Then. Okay, if that's, I will accept that then. This would just be for the first reading.
Okay. So there is a motion for approving this as the first reading. And was that a
That was-
second
that-
by you or?
I don't know, did he make
you-
a motion?
Yeah, he
Okay.
amended it to
Yes,
what you.
yes.
Yes. Okay, but yeah, comment?
Just one comment, while the orientation policy didn't exist when I was being oriented, I just want to commend staff, yes, again, for their support and onboarding for me as I started this process.
Okay, so there is a motion and second to accept as the first reading. Is that the right verbiage? Accept this as the first reading?
Yes.
Okay. And this is a voice vote. Okay, I was looking for a written say, but I don't need to. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. On to item 9.8, Resolution 25-10, recognizing Earth Day and Environmental Education Week. Trustee Larson.
Thank you very much. This is the last of the resolutions we're bringing back from last year, and it's recognizing Earth Day and Environmental Education Week. It's in the packet as page 210. We do have that new whereas clause included here that I've mentioned a couple times before. I do want to just highlight that this is to support the work of COE staff, the Environmental Literacy Coordinator, and it also highlights several things, in particular, the Youth Environmental Action Summit that will be coming up on April 21st, the Earth Day, the 55th anniversary of Earth Day on April 22nd, and then it's also calling out the celebration of the Green Classroom Initiative of the COE that will be celebrated at Seymour Long at the end of National Environmental Education Week on April 27th. All encompassed in the resolution. I'll move approval as it has come from.
Thank you, Trustee Larson. Any Discussion, comments, second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by trustee Williams. This is a roll call vote.
My apologies. Who was the motion?
Oh,
Sorry?
motion by Larson.
Student trustee Marcus,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Larson,
Yes.
trustee Roth, trustee Van Allen,
Aye.
trustee Williams.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you all, and thank you for having me lead you through all of those resolutions. Lots of talking. Okay, on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. I wanted to spend most of my time speaking to you about some of the kind of the most, what's front and center for us, which is the steps that the administration have taken in the realm of education and how it's impacting us. And so I was going to dive a little bit more in depth into what you may have heard today, that that President Trump signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. Since the Department of Education was created by an act of Congress, it is our understanding that to actually dismantle the Department of Education would require an act of Congress as well. However, many of the steps that have been taken are having an impact on our schools here locally. And I see part of my role is to make sure that you and our staff and our community are as aware as possible of these impacts, and to help strategize ways that we can either mitigate those impacts and continue to work to make sure that we are offering the very best resources, services, and advocacy for our students. So I wanted to share this, that we've been kind of organizing our understanding of the different ways that the administration is the steps that they're taking that are impacting us in different ways, and then I'll speak specifically about the U.S. Department of Education. And so, really looking at policy steps that they've taken, funding cuts, other actions, and then, of course, what I believe is one of the most impactful, detrimental aspects of these steps is really the fear that is being instilled in our community. And when it comes to, especially for our immigrant community, our LGBTQ+, especially our trans community, the very targeted, focused effort by the administration is creating a culture of fear, and that is, and whether it's rhetoric or action, the impact is very real. So let's start talking about policy. So some of the steps that they've taken is the elimination of protections for our LGBTQ+, specifically our trans community. Executive orders asking schools to out students and notify parents if their children want to use a different pronoun in schools. Banning trans students from using preferred bathrooms or joining sports teams. And eliminating all references to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and framing equity as racist, and also promoting school choice for parents. And all of these that are administrative, coming from administrative orders, we do not believe that they will have an impact on the very real protections that exist in California, because our laws are so strong protecting our LGBTQ+ communities. And our commitment for when it comes to equity. And so these policies that are being established, really attempting to erase the identities of our community and instilling fear in our community. We are, part of our role is really to assure our communities that the laws of California are going to continue to protect. Other actions, of course, that we've talked to you about is identifying schools as potential locations for immigration enforcement. We've been hearing, of course, about detainment of protesters as terrorist sympathizers, and if they're and investigating schools and universities because of diversity, equity, or inclusion programs and services, or investigating schools and universities for claims of anti-Semitism, of how they responded to protests in the past, pro-Palestinian or protests against the Israel-Palestinian war, allowing trans athletes to participate in sports. And so there's been over 50 universities that have been identified for investigation with threats of cuts to federal funds, as well as steps being taken against individuals who are participating in protests and also programs being threatened with cuts. You may have heard that they've launched a portal to collect complaints about agencies, K-12 agencies, and higher educational institutions where attacks against, where the claims of discrimination, and a kind of a reversal of how we would have defined discrimination in the past, and that being a launching pad for investigations, at least asserting that that's what the launching pad for investigations is. And then let's talk about funding cuts. So there's really three ways that we see that funding cuts could impact us. One is the termination of existing agreements or grants that we were in the process of acquiring or were already acquiring. And that includes, we recently learned that the Local Food Purchase Assistance Program, which is a program that allows schools to purchase mostly fresh fruits and vegetables from local growers, has been cut, which is about $200,000 for all the in Santa Cruz County. We've heard about programs like the CSUMB Teacher Quality Partnership Grant being cut, grants to do educational research, and services for FAFSA, which is the financial aid system, have been cut. And so at this point, the dollar amounts that are impacting us directly are not huge, but they are impactful, and we will continue to track those, but we anticipate that they will continue to grow. Another way that we anticipate that cuts to funding could take place is looking at next year's budget, the next federal fiscal year. And so unlike the state fiscal year, the federal fiscal year starts a little bit later. And so we're hearing that the plans are to make reductions in certain programs for that for the next state fiscal year. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which has been around since 1965, is what authorizes programs like Title I, and those programs are at risk if when Congress, which controls the purse strings of the government, they could influence how much funding we actually get. And then the other way that I think is important to note is that funding cuts could happen as a result of these staffing reductions, because with programs like the U.S. Department of Education that helps set formulas, when those folks are not in place, then we would anticipate disruptions. If we were to lose some of our amazing staff in our business services department, those services that they offer would be impacted or delayed, right? And so we anticipate that there's going to be disruptions as a result of. So speaking specifically about the U.S. Department of Education, one of the areas, actually I'm going to skip over to here. I think it's important to note that many of the federal programs that are in existence and have been around for quite some time, especially those that have been created in 1965 and after, are for low-income students or students who come from vulnerable communities. That's why those programs were created. Students with disabilities, students who need school lunches and so on. And so the concern about, as I said, about the U.S. Department of Education being dismantled, that we are risking, cuts and not having support from the federal government to be able to provide support for these programs. Cuts to Title I funds, to Individuals with Disabilities Education Act funds, our special education funding are also at risk, and our programs that are important. They represent about 12%. Our federal funds represent about 12% of all the funding that we get in Santa Cruz County. But the different districts that have higher numbers of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, like Pajaro Valley Unified School District, have a higher percentage of federal funds, closer to 16% of their funds. And so their impact would be outsized if there were disruptions to those services. Another important role that the Department of Education plays is in also managing. There's an Office of Civil Rights. They also manage complaints to ensure that students that their free and public education rights, that their services for special education are being protected, that they're being offered the least restrictive environment, and if civil rights have been violated, then they investigate those civil rights and ensure that kind of the restoration of those rights. And these programs are the ones that are being staffed. The staffing has been cut. Last week, about 7 of the 12 offices of civil rights were closed. Here in California, there's over 700 cases pending with the Office of Civil Rights that they've been directed to put those on hold. And so those kinds of disruptions are affecting the rights of the people whose cases are being processed. And so, those are ways that we see that the dismantling of the Department of Education will have direct effects on folks So what are we doing about it? That as a caller asked earlier, and I think that it's important to know that if we we don't anticipate that all that money is going to be cut. I think that the federal government is going to cut 12% of the funding that we're going to get, but we recognize that there's going to be disruption. There's going to be cuts. So we've organized the kinds of things that we're working on into different areas. One is to reassure our community. The fear that is being instilled in our community of parents being afraid to take their children to school or going to the clinic to get services or accessing resources. I think it's really important to demonstrate our allyship with our community, to demonstrate that our values are with them, that we want to continue to ensure that our schools are safe spaces, and also to focus on those local services. Make sure that they understand that that they can go to the clinic, they can get those resources that they deserve and are available to them. And part of that is communication and also demonstrating in different ways continue to support them in every way that we can. Some of the actions that we're looking at, of course, when it came to, we've already spoken to you about how schools have established new protocols in case immigration officials were to come to to our schools. We don't think that that's a likely scenario. However, we have protocols in place to respond appropriately for that. Anticipating, tracking, funding cuts and services, really looking at what we anticipate to be and figuring out what would happen to those programs. Is there something, the state has talked about stepping in certain situations to be able to provide continuity. We feel that can't happen realistically for very long. For example, services. That would have a huge effect on our ability to provide services. And so, but really wanting to anticipate what kinds of programs we're hearing that we think that are going to be impacted. And then I think that part of our action also is really embracing our values of equity and diversity and inclusion. Continue to state that we believe affirmatively that we need to that our responsibility is one of social justice. Believe that families that are most in need, of more vulnerable families or marginalized communities that we have a responsibility to continue to support them, and that we believe that schools have that important role to support communities that have been historically marginalized. And that does mean also thinking about how we have to be shifting our resources. And if we were to lose funding for food services, for example, more funding, $200,000, we've lost some. How would we ensure that we're going to continue to offer that, because we recognize that that's such what students get, one of those important pieces that students get in school. We also are working to inform and prepare our community. You're seeing information going out into the community, both sharing our concern and our commitment to support them. We've been partnering with lots of folks who provide Know Your Rights trainings. We're launching a website with resources, really helping our community, helping families with complete child safety plans so that they can have somebody working with our partners to get the word out to our community, and if there are steps that they can take to by federal government. And then that takes us to the last one, which is really about linking to the support network. We have amazing organizations here and local who are working on behalf of our community. We're partnering with our federal leadership at the Congressman Panetta's office, state leaders, to talk about what can be done with our state leaders, looking at what kind of litigation they're looking at if steps are taken, because we feel like an important aspect of this is going to be the courts will to help protect our communities from these potential losses. That we're going to be, even if it's maybe not directly involved in those steps, but definitely want to stay on top of what are the things, and also putting a face to those stories. You heard from Eric Rose, maybe in the newspapers, about what cuts to those food services, what it could mean for their programs. I think it's important for those local stories to be able to share the real impact. And as I said, a huge, wonderful network of kind of an ecosystem of community-based organizations that are in place. We meet with them on a weekly basis. We talk about strategy. We talk about things we can do, how we can get the word out, what kind of information does our community need, and how to continue to get them to utilize the resources and the services. I hope to provide an update for you every time during this time, so that you, as things continue to evolve. We feel like, as difficult as this is for our community, it is also necessary for us to assert our commitment to our values. That we are going to continue to think about how we must adapt to this, figure out all the different ways the steps we can take. Thank you for allowing me to share that. I wanted to talk a little bit about some exciting things that are happening. As part of, as we learned during the pandemic, it's also important to look deeply at all the amazing things, like to celebrate our students. Think about Trustee Marcus playing on the keyboard at multiple events as a musician, or seeing our students winning, the science and engineering fair. Those students our students are really what it's all about for us, and we have lots of events that are taking place. I did want to share that we were selected as the Organization of the Year by Youth. Specifically, our Youth-Led Leadership Alliance, Andres Ortiz. This is the second award he gets in 2024-25. So award-winning, where his new title will be award-winning Andres Ortiz. And so this really exciting, just Andres has been building some amazing partnerships with United Way, collaborating both on the research side of it as well as creating great partnerships and opportunities for our students. So congratulations to Nick and the COE and especially to Andres, amazing students with whom he gets to work and we get to work with, including our student trustees. So some exciting events that are taking place tomorrow. We have a LGBTQ symposium, the first of its kind. We have Rob, Rob Darrow, thank you. Rob Darrow is someone who works with us as a consultant, and he's been helping to prepare and facilitate this event. We're going to have some great speakers and a panel, and it'll be tomorrow at Cabrillo College. We'd love it if you could join us.
The event will be starting at building 405, and then the breakout sessions will be in buildings adjacent.
So start in room 405. Great. So building 400 first, and then we'll.
You'll see a lot of rainbows, so follow the rainbow lane.
Follow the rainbow. So we have a Fashion Teens event, which is happening. This is our busiest time of the year. So lots to happen that happens. This is kind of like before graduations, we have all of these amazing things. I think starting probably with the STEAM Expo is probably the poetry out loud, yeah. And then we just back to back. And so everybody involved in this, from our Ed Services team to our youth leadership folks, and of course the superintendent's office, which plays a really important role in all of these activities. We're a very busy time for everybody. So Fashion Teens at the Rio Theater on April 18th. We'll be exhibiting our students' artwork before it comes here at the Santa Cruz Government Center. And our Youth for Environmental Action Summit is occurring on April 21st in Camp Conania. And we also received a, actually no, Green Classroom Celebration is something else. I did want to share that we received, we've been honored as with the Green Ribbon Program for environmental sustainability. We received the award as a gold organization, the first county office of education in California to receive that award. And this is thanks to Amity Sanage, and also all our maintenance and operations team, our business services team, and all the folks who've made a commitment to improve our kind of, I guess, behaviors. It sounds a little weird, but the way we do business every day, and so we're now gold certified as under the Green Ribbons program. So we actually are getting an award for that. But the Green Classroom Celebration, which is also with Amity, is really an exciting opportunity for you to see what teachers are doing for environmental sustainability. It's a really fun, you'll get to see all the student projects, and it's just a wonderful event if you can make it. And then we're hosting the Central Coast Foster Youth and Homeless Education. It rotates through through San Benito, Monterey, and Santa Cruz. So this year we're hosting at Cabrillo College. We talk about supporting foster youth and homeless students who are experiencing homelessness, and it's really brings together a network of folks who are both school-based and community-based organizations that support those students. So,
Question,
yes, please.
Before you move on from this
Yeah.
slide. So I have Inside Education tomorrow, so I can't do the symposium.
Yes.
But one of the speakers tomorrow had a great ally logo that I converted into my Facebook portrait.
Oh.
And so I just expressed how great this program was. And one of my friends said, well, why isn't it TK to 14? Because everything else is TK to 14. And they said, why? It's just a question. It's next year.
It's a good
Next
question.
year.
It's a good question. We will fix that At least on the digital versions of this, you're absolutely right. Everything is TK and you're absolutely right. So thank you for that.
But having the speaker's PowerPoints already available was fantastic, so I could live it vicariously.
Wonderful.
If I may add, Superintendent Sabah, I don't believe that there was any particular thought behind that. That was an oversight on the part of the organizers, and we'll be sure to raise that in the debrief.
Well, the person, they made a change for the future.
There you go. And I appreciate your eye on the details that it helps us. So thank you for that. So again, lots of positive things happening, and I think again, when we think about that reassurance, we need to continue to create these opportunities for our students to be able to show how amazing they are and to remind us about why we do the work that we do. You do your work as a board. Any questions for me?
So really, COVID was a rehearsal for what we're coming into now. And overall, our organization did pretty well for our people, given the conditions in COVID. And I think we were recognized for that. And now we have to rise to a bigger challenge.
And I think it is kind of maybe symbolic or maybe evidence that schools really play such a huge important role in our community. They're really in many ways the heart of our community, and that puts, you know, a great deal of expectation and responsibility on our shoulders as leaders to continue to stand up for. So I think that it's an opportunity to lead for us as educational institutions and really make sure that schools continue to play that important role, both as creating those protective factors as well as creating those wonderful opportunities for youth. Yeah. Okay. That is it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sabah. On to trustee reports, and I guess I will start by saying thank you once again, Dr. Sabah, for presenting to the Santa Cruz County CSBA. Things have changed just from then, like a lot. I mean, just today with the Department of Education executive order, which I was working all day. I didn't even get to read it. I heard it on the news, and having to look at that is going to be interesting. So yeah, we got a great presentation from Dr. Sabah to all of the attendees at the Santa Cruz County CSBA meeting. You know, everything that we just saw about the federal actions that are being taken and the eye that we need to keep towards federal actions that might be impacting us, even though it is a smaller percentage of the budget, it is a significant portion of money, especially for districts like Pajaro. So very, very interesting times we're in, and I don't have much else to report. So I'll go on to Trustee Williams.
Well, good evening, everyone. So aside from attending some school district board meetings virtually, there's a lot going on in our county that affect our students, and I'm sure most of us are aware of those things. So I'm just trying to keep informed, but also heavily involved and still staying involved with the CSP, which is the Children's Safety Plan through the Santa Cruz County Immigration Coalition. So that's one of the things that Dr. Sabah was talking about. I'm working with Sherry Cassidy to help streamline volunteers who are doing train the trainers on know your rights, but also assisting with parents creating their child care plan throughout our county. It's a program that it's not spread out through our tri-counties. So a lot of other organizations and counties are coming to the committee to go out to Salinas and Marina and San Benito County to give these trainings. So I'm trying to help out where I can, and just working with her to help streamline the volunteers and sort of like the the operations aspect of it. And enjoyed fully the STEAM Expo. I, like most of our trustees, have not been to a science fair in quite a long time, and it was, again, impressive. I mean, it was truly impressive, and I enjoyed myself. Attended the Eddies last night and got to see student trustee Marcus play the keyboard, and that was a lot of fun, and got to celebrate a lot of great work from our educators throughout the county. That's my report.
Thank you.
I have not much to report. I'm pretty caught up in that ballot measure initiative and trying to pay attention to other things too, but and it certainly has implications, as I've talked about before, about educator workforce housing and things like that. So that I feel it's consistent with my commitment.
Thank you, Van Allen. Trustee Larson.
I submitted my activity in writing. I did have one correction. I have a good friend, Mary Beth Robb. The city schools trustee is Mary Ann Robb, and I put her name wrong in my report. The only things I wanted to highlight again were the STEAM, the Eddies last night for Santa Cruz City Schools, and then also the Her Stories celebration that COE sponsored the week before, as well as the Second Harvest Food Bank event. Those, and just seeing COE's physical leadership with Ferris as the chair, but also sponsorship of those community-based events is important. And then the other thing I'm just loving the most is actually seeing stuff being done, visiting school sites and events, visiting COE activities and events. So if there's ever a need for a volunteer at anything, I'll do stickers or whatever you want. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Larson.
I did the Ledge Action Week training, and then met with, actually, it wasn't Senator Laird, but Quincy Stivers, his Ledge aide, and with Assembly Member Gail Pellerin and her aide, Rhiannon Mulligan. Loved STEAM. I'll be back. I'm going to see if I can bring my Portland grandkids maybe for that weekend so they can play and be inspired. I attended a alumni event up at UC, not alumni, Kyrie alumni, up at UC, given by Gary Griggs, professor of Earth and Planetary Sciences, on the history of Santa Cruz County natural catastrophes. And I know that that isn't the focus of our youth environmental, but I believe he is very available. Fascinating. I mean, I like the guy, but I think our youth, many were not alive during the different processes that we have been through in the county, but a good person to speak. And then, of course, the budget.
Thank you, Trustee Roth. And I was so sad that I couldn't attend the budget meeting, you know, but I'm sure you guys had a lot of good discussions, Trustee Larson, with all your experience as well. Yeah, wonderful questions. I really do wish I was there. I was actually up in Portland for a conference, so that's why I couldn't make it. Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 17th at 5:30. The ad hoc standing committee reports or actions. Were there anything that anyone wanted? Okay, well, I'll say for the agenda committee, it was stated earlier, the ACCBE will present in April. Oh yeah.
I was just going to share about the charter committee. So just a timeline for the career advancement charter. We're going to be working on a renewal, and so we're going to be bringing a report and public hearing to the May meeting. And so the charter committee will be involved in the process of reviewing the renewal, and then you'll be making your decision in June for its approval, or its renewal.
And thank you to the trustees that completed the doodle poll from the charter committee.
Oh, and for the ACCBE, is that scheduled to be an action or is it just a presentation? I don't remember.
At this moment, it's just a presentation, but the agenda committee can choose to whether make it an action item, obviously 72 hours ahead in advance.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, our next meeting is going to be April 17th, right here, 5:30 p.m. And other upcoming events. Do I just go, this meeting is adjourned? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Good job.